What is up, Broncos fans? I am back here again to do part 2 of my 2017 NFL draft preview. In the first part, we focused on some offensive prospects that I would like to see the Broncos target come Thursday night's draft. In this video, we'll focus on some defensive prospects that I think could fit well with the Broncos and that they could potentially look to target again come Thursday night when the 2017 NFL draft finally gets underway from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There's going to be a lot of change for our defense this year. Of course, Wade Phillips will no longer be the defensive coordinator. He moved on to go become the defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, which is fine and dandy. But a lot of people seem to be worried that our defense is gonna have a huge setback because we lost Wade Phillips, and I kind of don't understand it. I think it's kind of bullshit, quite frankly, to act like Wade Phillips deserves all the success of our defense in recent years, and obviously helping us win a Super Bowl championship 2 years ago. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Wade Phillips doesn't deserve any credit. He deserves a lot. He definitely helped elevate our defense. To make it out like the Broncos defense is going to fall apart without him here, I think is a complete joke, and I think it's completely not only overrating Wade Phillips as a defensive mind, but it's completely underrating our personnel and the talent we have defensively, because we have a ton. And it's not like we didn't replace Wade Phillips with a guy that isn't familiar with this group. I mean, Joe Woods is now our new defensive coordinator. He's been our defensive backs coach for years. He's familiar with this group. He knows what makes them tick. He knows their personality. They're comfortable with him, and vice versa. So I don't really see where the narrative that Wade Phillips was so valuable to this team, and I think we'll prove that this year with Joe Woods now at the helm. And we got Vance Joseph, man. A guy that coached under was under Wade Phillips, knows his philosophy, knows the scheme. So I think we'll be fine there. And look, the Orange Crush is alive and well, man. We got a lot of guys returning. Basically, our whole secondary returns from last year. Pretty much our whole defense returns from last year, with the exception of DeMarcus Ware and Sylvester Williams, which is cool. Who cares, honestly? And you just look at what we did last year. I mean, we didn't skip a beat. I mean, we ranked 4th in total defense. We were the #1 passing defense. Again, that entire secondary pretty much returns. We gave up 13 passing touchdowns last year, and we had 14 interceptions. I mean, that's a joke. We had more interceptions than the amount of passing touchdowns we gave up. Pretty impressive stuff there. We were 4th in scoring percentage. Teams only scored on 29.4% of their drives against our defense last year. We ranked 3rd in sacks, had 42 total. We were 4th in scoring defense total points, and 4th in points per game. Only gave up around 19 points per game as a defense last year. Would have helped if our offense could score more than 21 a game. But nonetheless, it's, again, I don't see where this defense is going to skip a beat. I think, again, Joe Woods is a perfect guy to replace Wade Phillips. I think Vance Joseph, again, knows a lot of Wade Phillips' philosophy and his principles. And we got our basically whole defense coming back. They're ready to go. They're fired up after missing the playoffs last year. Because while we were great last year, and again, I don't think we're going to suffer much from losing Wade Phillips, there's still some chinks in the armor, so to say, on this defensive unit, and definitely holes that we could fill. We were awful against the run last year. We were terribly inconsistent against the run. A lot of that had to do with our interior defensive line. Sylvester Williams was awful for most of the year. Darius Kilgo didn't really provide much. And we weren't good on 3rd down as well. Defensively, we definitely can make some improvements there. I mean, we ranked 28th in rushing defense last year. We were 25th in rushing first downs allowed, 19th in yards per carry, gave up 4.3 yards per carry. You were 20th in rushing touchdowns allowed, gave up 15 rushing touchdowns last year, and you gave up an average of 130.1 rushing yards per game. I mean, our front seven, again, kind of got beat up. Todd Davis got beat up quite frequently against the run. Corey Nelson did as well. And again, it started kind of with our interior defensive line. Had an injury to Derek Wolfe early in the season. Sylvester Williams, I mean, he was trashed since the moment we drafted him a couple years ago, and really just didn't have that space heater or that gap filler up front to really contain the run game. And then you have Brandon Marshall, your best linebacker. He missed his 5 games last year due to injury. We got frequently beat up the middle in the run game because he wasn't there, and also we got beat frequently in the middle of the field in coverage. You look at what we did last year against tight ends. We gave up 88 catches to tight ends last year. That was 7th most in the NFL last season. So again, we got exposed in terms of our linebackers in coverage. And you remember that Atlanta game, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman lit our linebackers and safeties up, in coverage there. So we had problems defending tight ends and running backs, had problems getting off the field on 3rd down. And again, our rushing defense was basically a block of Swiss cheese with the amount of holes in it. So definitely can improve on that. And there's definitely, again, this is a loaded defensive draft. There's plenty of linebackers, maybe even some safeties and some defensive linemen that the Broncos could look to add to help improve their rushing defense going into 2017. So the first defensive draft prospect I'm going to talk about here in this video, we got Reuben Foster, a linebacker out of Alabama, 6 foot, 229 pounds, 23 years old. This guy had a hell of a year in 2016 for the Crimson Tide. He was named to the All-SEC first team in 2016 for Alabama. He was the SEC championship game MVP. He won the Dick Butkus Award for the nation's best linebacker, and he was a unanimous All-American again all last year in 2016. He finished with 115 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks in 2016. Just had a hell of a year for the Crimson Tide. You look at Reuben Foster, this is a guy, ferocious hitter. Not the best tackler in terms of technique, but man, when he lays the wood on you, he hits you. I mean, this guy, again, is a ferocious hitter in the middle of your defense, phenomenal athlete. This guy that has elite lateral quickness, really can diagnose a play and get sideline to sideline like that, has great coverage ability, which I think really is where his value is at, especially in terms of if the Broncos are looking to potentially draft him. This is a guy that had 10 pass deflections in 2015 as a linebacker, which is obviously very impressive. You team him up with Brandon Marshall. That's kind of a two-headed monster you got there, especially given their coverage ability. This is a guy that just has, I think, a great mentality for our defense. He has that alpha mentality. He's got great confidence, a swagger about him, and I think it could really fit in well with the kind of personnel we have defensively and our personality that we've built over the past several years defensively here in Denver. Again, this guy that's got great range as a linebacker. Again, it goes back to his coverage ability, his sideline-to-sideline lateral quickness, and a lot of that had to do with him losing 15 to 20 pounds last year, really accentuated that. But there's obviously some red flags. Again, this guy, he's a poor tackler in terms of his technique. Again, he is a ferocious hitter, has great hitting power, but could definitely improve in terms of his technique. Has actually got injured in the past because of his poor tackling technique, and this guy has average instincts. You'd like to see a little bit better instincts from a first-round linebacker. But really the main issue with Reuben Foster is the off-the-field issues. This is a guy that definitely hasn't had the easiest upbringing. Has had some red flags off the field. Actually, during the draft evaluation process, he was sent home from the scouting combine because he got into a heated argument with a hospital worker, which you kind of don't understand. That's kind of a weird thing. And then it was just revealed recently he failed a drug test as well at the scouting combine because his urine sample was dilute. And this, again, a guy that just really came from a very, very tough upbringing, had an awful home life. I mean, you're talking about a guy that, his father shot his mom, when he was only 18 months old and actually wounded him in the back. He himself actually fathered a daughter at only 15 years old, which is just... I mean, I'm almost 25. I can only imagine having a kid now, let alone 15 years old. And then in April of 2016, last year, he wasn't involved in the shooting, but he was at a Alabama nightclub in Auburn, Alabama, where 3 people were shot dead. He was at the nightclub. He wasn't involved in the shooting, but still, obviously those are very, very red flags. And clearly a guy that didn't have the best upbringing, has been affected by it, but obviously by some of his decision making off the field, given again he had a daughter at 15 years old. That's not the most intelligent decision to make, and again was at a nightclub last year where 3 people were shot dead. So Reuben Foster's a bit of an enigma, man, but you look at what he does on the field, you look at his productions, you look at the hitting power that he possesses, the kind of ferocious intimidator that he can be in the middle of your defense, and again his coverage ability, his aggressiveness, his swagger and mentality, and the way that could fit with this Broncos defense. And then you add the fact that those red flags could drop him to pick 20 potentially. Could be a hell of a fit for us. Again, I feel like I've been wanting the Broncos to draft an inside linebacker the past several years, and we just never have been in the position to do it, or we never do it. I mean, we had, I believe, an opportunity a couple years ago to get Donta Hightower, and I think even after that I had an opportunity to get C.J. Mosley, or he was picked a couple picks before us. So these Alabama linebackers that have been coming out lately, they have felt like they really would fit well with what we need defensively, and for whatever reason just hasn't worked out. We passed on them, and they went a couple picks before us. But Reuben Foster, maybe he's the guy. where it all comes together. And again, we've shown in the past with guys like Bradley Roby and Shane Ray, and again to an extent Von Miller. We have no problem taking guys with maybe red flags off the field and bringing them in and kind of helping them get their heads right and really fitting in well with us. So I think Reuben Foster could be a great fit for us, not only on the field and some of the holes we have from a cover standpoint in the linebacking core, but also for him personally and kind of his growth as a man here in Denver. So Reuben Foster, not sure he'll be there at number 20, but maybe the rest of the league's idiocy will be the Broncos' fortune, if Reuben Foster does fall to 20. All right, the next prospect I'm going to talk about, we got Jabrill Peppers, safety/linebacker out of Michigan. Probably one of the most polarizing players in college football over the past maybe 2 years. Looking at a guy 5'11", 213 pounds, 21 years old. Just has been, his trophy case has been full the past 2 years with the amount of awards he's won at Michigan. Won the Ronnie Lott Trophy for the most impactful defensive player last season, as well as the Paul Hornig Award for the most versatile player in college football in 2016. He was the Big Ten Defensive Player in 2016, was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year in 2015, and a unanimous All-American last year in 2016 for the Wolverines. Look what he did at the Combine. Peppers, he ran a 4.46 40 at a 35.5-inch vertical jump, had a 10-foot 6-inch broad jump, 19 reps on the bench press. This is a guy that had 125 tackles, 18.5 tackles for loss, 11 pass deflections, only 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble in 3 seasons at Michigan. Played running back, quarterback, wide receiver, H-back at times, played the safety and linebacker spot. Again, was a great return man, electric returner, and again, is really a jack of all trades. And bottom line, he's a playmaker. I mean, and you can never have too many of those. This guy is a playmaker to every extent of the word. Again, jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife, whatever you want to say. Really a guy that can line up anywhere on the field on both sides of the football, but primarily defensively is a guy that can line up as a safety, can line up as a linebacker, even play some nickel defensive back at times. You're looking at Jabrill Peppers, good lateral quickness, is a guy that can get to sideline pretty effortlessly, has a nose for the ball, seems to always be around it, is very, very disruptive in the run game. Love the way he helps in terms of his in run support as a safety or as a linebacker. No problem coming downhill and sacrificing himself to disrupt the run game. Again, has a lot of juice as a returner, added value there. And again, we were a team last year that had 0 touchdowns, not only in terms of punt return touchdowns, but also kick return touchdowns, 0 return touchdowns. He's a guy that could add some value for us there, and has added value on the offensive side of football because, again, he's a guy you can include in special packages whether it's near the red zone and goal line situations, or maybe in some wildcat packages. He's a guy that, again, is just a playmaker, a guy you want on your team, and is a jack of all trades, really can do it all. But there are some questions with him. This is a guy doesn't have the greatest ball skills. I mean, he's good in coverage. I mean, he's physical enough to cover tight ends, and I say he's quick enough to cover most wide receivers, and he's a good blitzer. But he's a guy that, again, doesn't have the best ball skills. Only, 1 interception in 3 seasons at Michigan, only 10 pass deflections in 3 seasons as Michigan. I think, as I just mentioned, Reuben Foster as a linebacker had 10 pass deflections alone in 2015. Jabrill Peppers barely had that in 3 seasons at Michigan. So definitely some questions about his ball skills. And is a guy tackling technique like Reuben Foster needs to improve. This guy ducks his head a lot as a tackler, very, very dangerous to do. And needs to improve his awareness, can bite on play action a lot, and can get better in terms of his play recognition. That would, go a long way for him. And also has some off-the-field issues. Failed the drug test as well at the scouting combine due to, it being a dilute sample. His father spent most of his childhood in jail. His brother was shot and killed when he was only 14 years old. Again, a guy that has overcame quite a bit. And like Reuben Foster, again, just a guy that I think would fit really well given our defense's personality. I think he just really would vibe well and would just have immediate groove and chemistry with our defensive personnel, especially our secondary. And again, this is a guy you don't really have to have a set position to. It's almost a luxury pick. Definitely will probably be there at pick 20. Might be a little rich for Denver's blood. So maybe a guy, with the failed drug test falls, into the second round, and then maybe you look to pick him up there. But I think it'd be a hell of a luxury pick, a luxury item, so to say, asset to add to our defensive unit. And again, is a guy that can also add some value in the return game, which we desperately need, and is a guy that you can include in special packages on offense, and we're an offense that desperately needs playmakers. So Jabrill Peppers definitely should be a name that the Broncos have on their board and should consider, especially more likely in the early part of that second round. Now to the third defensive draft prospect I'm going to talk about here in this draft preview for the Broncos. We got Mckinley, defensive end out of UCLA, 6'2", 250 pounds, only 21 years old. He's had 17 sacks over the last 3 seasons for the Bruins, 10 of which came last season. He also had 18 tackles for loss and 6 pass deflections last year for the Bruins, while being named to the all Pac-12 first team. You look at what he did at the Combine, ran a 4.59 40, which is pretty good for a defensive end at 250 pounds, 33-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 1-inch broad jump, ran a 4.62 20-yard short shuttle, which is ridiculous, again, at his size, and is a guy that also had 24 reps on the bench press, which is, again, a pretty solid number. So had a pretty good showing at the Combine, and is a guy that's a pretty good athlete for a defensive end. You're looking at a guy, incredible motor, relentless pursuit to the ball, never going to really have to question his effort. And again, his motor is a relentless worker. Has great speed, long arms, which you like seeing from a defensive end. Great lateral agility, very good spin move. And again, is a guy that, this isn't a position of need, but at pick 20, again, might be a pick there that he might be the best available player on the board at the time. Again, strengthening a strength, could be a luxury pick in the same way that like Jabrill Peppers is. And there is that that old saying, you can never have too much corners. I think you can never have too many pass rushers as well. And this is a guy that his potential is through the roof. Definitely is still raw. Needs to improve his hands. Doesn't really have very strong hands. Doesn't really have a great punch, so to say, at the initial point of attack against offensive linemen. Definitely needs to polish up his pass rushing arsenal. He doesn't have a whole lot of pass rushing moves. Again, has a spin move, and that's about it. And does need to get stronger in terms of his upper body and become more of a presence there, again, at the point of attack. And could definitely improve his hip flexion, become a more natural bender coming around the edge. But why I really like Mckinley, again, great motor, great effort, some things you can't teach. He's going to work his ass off. And the thing about the Broncos is, our pass rush is already great. Again, we had 42 sacks last year, but 21 and a half of our 42 sacks last year came from Von Miller and Shane Ray. So it would be nice to maybe add another complimentary pass rusher next to Derek Wolfe, next to Shaq Barrett, to again kind of take some of the workload off Shane Ray and Von Miller. Shane Ray, of course, is going to have way higher workload this year, especially with DeMarcus Ware being completely off the team. Now he had a reduced role last year, which led to more minutes for Shane Ray and more snaps for Shane Ray. But that number's only going to double going into this year with DeMarcus Ware out. So again, those two guys are responsible for nearly half, if not more than half, of our sacks last year. Could use another pass rusher, complimentary guy like Mckinley, who works his ass off, again, relentless pursuit to the ball, to free up Shane Ray and Von Miller, and again put them in more one-on-one situations. Mckinley, I think, would be a great pick, and again, he might be the best player available there at pick 20. And I'd much rather have him over Garrett Bowles. I'd much rather have him over Cam Robinson or Ryan Ramczyk or even Forrest Lamp. Because again, you guys could be infatuated with us taking a left tackle. This is not a draft to take an offensive lineman in the first round. The Broncos would be idiotic if they do, especially if a guy like Mckinley is on the board. The next guy I'll be talking about, really like this guy. At one point, I think it was safe to say this guy was a lock as a first-round pick. Not so sure now. You got Sidney Jones, defensive back out of Washington, 6 foot, 186 pounds. Don't know exactly how old he is, but I do believe he's like 20, going on 21 years old. This is a guy that was named to the first team All Pac-12 in 2015 and 2016. Started since he was a freshman. This is a guy that has had 27 pass deflections and 9 interceptions in 3 seasons. Ridiculous numbers at Washington. Again, is a guy that has phenomenal ball skills. This guy is a primary example of a ball hawking corner. You look at the numbers he put up at the Combine. Ran a 4.47 40, had a 33.5-inch vertical jump, ran a 4.28 20-yard short shuttle, which is elite quickness. Had a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, and again, was a guy at one point was a shoo-in, probably as a top 20 pick and almost a lock to go in the first round, but tore his Achilles tendon on his pro day on March 21st. So that injury alone, unfortunately, might have knocked him out of the first round. But you look at Sidney Jones, take the injury out of it, just looking at him as a player before that. This is a guy that does, like Mckinley, doesn't take playoffs, is an ultimate competitor, has a great motor, a guy that has a nose for the ball, great eyes, has a knack for really baiting quarterbacks into throws, and undercutting and jumping routes. Has great timing there. Again, great ball skills, evident by the 27 pass deflections and 9 interceptions he had in 3 seasons with the Huskies there in Washington. And he's a guy, he's great at attacking the ball at its highest point. Not a lot of DBs do that. Something you need to do, though, if you want to be elite DB at the next level. And it is a guy that, you know, he's very, very intelligent. Again, very aware, great eyes, can really mirror receivers' routes from and almost run their routes from. And really has a potential to be a lockdown corner in this league, just due to, again, his nose for the ball, his motor, and his intelligence, really, and also has the athleticism to back it up. But again, you have to, obviously, questions about his health and questions about, you know, will he ever be the same, tearing his Achilles tendon. That's an injury that most of the time, you know, in football I've seen some guys come back from it, but that's an injury primarily in basketball. Basically, is a death sentence in basketball if you tear your Achilles tendon. So obviously big concerns about that. But this is a guy that has all the tools in the world, not only, again, from an awareness and intelligence standpoint, but from a physical standpoint. He is a little scrawny. You know, he isn't the strongest guy. He's good in press coverage. He's really good at jamming guys at the line of scrimmage, but he can get overwhelmed and bullied at the line by bigger wide receivers. And this is a guy that there's also questions about his recovery speed. He's got good speed, but, you know, when he's going against burners, guys like T.Y. Hilton, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Wallace, guys that really can take a top of a defense. You know, he's a guy that when he gets beat by guys like that, there's questions about can he recover and make up for that ground that he loses. But again, the main concern with him is the Achilles tendon. So definitely not a guy I would take at pick 20 if I was the Broncos. But if he falls to the second round, even possibly even third round, definitely a guy I would take a flyer on. You already, you know, we don't need a defensive back, but as I just mentioned with pass rushers, one of the biggest, like, sayings as a personnel person in football, you can never have enough corners. So to add a guy like this and a guy of this, you know, his caliber in the late second or third round, I think would just be, you know, too much of a high value pick to pass up. And again, you add Sidney Jones to a secondary that already has a guy like Bradley Roby, Chris Harris, you know, Aqib Talib, you know, again, young emerging safeties like Justin Simmons and Will Parks. You add another young guy to that core, again, just would be a match made in heaven, and really would just be a luxury pick. Again, you can never have too many corners, and this guy would be an absolute steal in the latter part of that second round, especially in the third round. So Sidney Jones, definitely a guy the Broncos should look to possibly target in the later rounds of the 2017 NFL Draft. Last defensive prospect I'm going to talk about here in this video, we got Dalvin Tomlinson, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Love this guy. Love his story. Probably one of the most intriguing draft prospects just from his story and background, what he's overcome. Really interesting guy. Again, defensive tackle out of Alabama, 6'3", 310 pounds. Could not find his age. I believe he's like 21 or 22 years old. Again, this guy has a hell of a story. Both his parents, unfortunately, and tragically passed away, I believe, when he was in high school. This guy, you know, he's a 3-time heavyweight high school wrestling state champion, I believe. Also was a goalie on his high school soccer team. Don't see that much from a 310-pound defensive tackle. Overcame an ACL injury as well, I believe, during his freshman year at Alabama. And this is a guy, academically, is so smart. Could have gone to Harvard, but chose to go to Alabama. Again, better opportunity to, you know, go pro. And obviously made a great decision. But again, just an incredible story, again, from the tragedy of losing both your parents and overcoming that and accomplish what he's had. Again, the smarts guy could have went to Harvard, was a goalie in high school, overcame an ACL injury. Just a guy that obviously has incredible mental toughness, and is coming off his best year at Alabama as a senior last year for the Crimson Tide. Had 62 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, and 3 sacks. You look at what he did at the scouting combine. Had a 27-inch vertical jump, ran a 4.59 20-yard short shuttle, which is ridiculous for a guy his size, and had a 9'2" broad jump. You look at Dalvin Tomlinson, he's a guy that definitely would fit a position of need for us. Again, is just kind of your prototypical nose tackle, space eater. Has great hands, really powerful punch off the line of scrimmage. Again, strong hands, could get off blocks. Is a guy that's got quick, active hands to bat down passes at the line of scrimmage, so he adds some value there for you. And again, very quality motor for a guy of his size. Good play recognition. Again, has that smarts, the awareness, especially in the run game. He's got really good recognition, which is obviously something we could use, especially from the interior defensive line. And he just eats up space, man. He has enough strength and power to handle double teams. He's very adequate in the run game. Not a guy that's really going to add any value whatsoever as an interior pass rusher. Really not going to provide an interior pass rushing presence at all. He's got predictable pass rushing moves like attack Mckinley. Could work on his arsenal of pass rushing moves. He's not a pocket mover. Again, he's not going to be an interior pass rushing presence for you. But he is a guy that, again, he's got a quality motor. He's smart, good recognition in the run game, eats up space, strong punch, strong active hands off. The line of scrimmage, can knock down and bat down balls at the line of scrimmage. But the main question is, can he be a 3-down defensive tackle? Honestly, I think he can. And again, it's a guy that the Broncos don't have to take a pick 20. You can fill a position of need with a real quality guy here in the 3rd, maybe even 4th round. And you're adding a great character guy of great mental toughness, very intelligent, and he fits a need of yours and would drastically improve, I think, your run defense and give you a space eater and a guy that has a powerful punch, as well as, again, providing, value by his ability to bat down balls at the line of scrimmage. So Dalvin Tomlinson, defensive tackle at Alabama. I kind of just want us to draft him because of his story and just kind of intriguing, how intriguing and interesting this guy is. But definitely could be a nice late value pick for the Broncos to get it at that defensive tackle spot. So that is my 2017 NFL Draft Preview for the Denver Broncos. Leave me a comment below, guys. What do you think of the 5 defensive prospects I named in this video? And any guys that didn't mention that you might be interested to see the Broncos targeting, leave me a comment below. Would love to hear from you guys. Once again, I appreciate you watching as always. Really looking forward to the draft on Thursday night. Have fun and be safe wherever you're watching it, regardless of who your teams, who your favorite team is and where they're picking. I wish every team out there the best of luck on Thursday night. All the draft prospects as well. Congratulations to them and their families for accomplishing this dream, man, and getting to this point. It's a rarity for most people to do that. Most people don't, and these guys should be so proud and really soak this moment in. So again, that's it for me, guys. Take care. Enjoy the draft on Thursday night, and go Broncos. Look forward to seeing who become the new members of this organization and who will be rocking that orange and blue come Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night.